We're live, but just to be safe, I wanted to wait because last time I was saying hi and trying to catch up a little bit and it just kind of cut me off. Hi, Whitney. Thanks again so much for doing
Fallon.
It's so exciting. Like Monday happens and I'm like, I get to talk to Whitney tomorrow and like, hopefully we'll be able to help some people. And it's just really exciting.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm excited to be here again. Thank you.
Yes, we are hitting record-breaking numbers every week with our brain health coaching certification course signups. And I definitely feel like you're a huge part of that. And just, being a leader in this community with me is just such an honor. And for those of you who haven't seen our previous videos, Whitney and I go back a lot from when I was a clinician and she came through with a loved one. And I just always knew that she was special. And it's just kind of cool that we've kind of grown into this together. And it just makes me super happy.
It makes me happy too. It's awesome. It's just, you never know where life is going to lead you.
Totally. If someone told me I was going to be trying to help people alleviate anxiety, I would have said to me, you need to work on yourself first.
Keep thinking about that.
Definitely. And there was an email that popped up today. It was almost like they were reading our minds about some things that you can do. And it was funny because number one was to kind of plan on things not going the way that you expect. Mm-hmm. And I loved that because it's not about having a negative thought and fortune telling and thinking things are going to go bad. It's just planning so that when something is disappointing or things just don't go the way that you want because of, a lot of things that we don't really have control over, like we talked about last time. I just think that's kind of a cool thing to think about because once you get that negative thought going, it's just going to take off. And if you're someone like me that used to have a very overactive anterior cingulate gyrus, you get stuck and like you can't stop. And it just kind of goes into this spiral of not goodness.
Right. Absolutely.
To see that. And it takes a long time to make that better.
It does. And there's so many things that can make that better when you get stuck. But, for me, it's not so much, I have a dear friend who does plan like for all, like, it's not only like, have a backup for your computer, but have a backup and a third backup and a fourth backup, because that backup might go and then the other one might go. And it's like, and so, they plan for everything to go wrong. And it's like, okay, there's like, you want to plan a little bit, but for me, like when something happens, I go into curiosity. I'm like, so there must be a reason for that. And, let's just see what it is. So like, I think of like traffic is a great example.
Yeah.
If there's traffic and I'm sitting in it and I'm going to be late for something, or I get detoured somewhere else, I'm like, I better pay attention here because this was not on my plan. And that means that something else needs to come into my awareness. And so I need to pay attention. And so that's where I go is to always be curious when things don't work out, because that means that there's something else that wasn't quite right that is being offered to you. I believe there's a bigger, I don't want to, get spiritual or religious or anything, but like there's something bigger than just us as humans in the world. And I feel like there's times when we get nudged, in a different direction, because to me, when something goes wrong, that means I'm on the right path. That means like I'm on the right path and I just stumbled a little bit and I'm like coming back up onto my path. Because to me, that's where the growth and the excitement and the adventure is. So
I love that. And it just kind of made me think of you're either right or you're wrong. Things are either black or they're white. And it's like, if you're going to live your life that way, you're going to be in a lot of pain. And it's going to be very hard to get out of that until you kind of find some center.
Right. And so, for me, when I work, I've been an acupuncturist for 21 years. And when I work with people, a lot of times they just need a reframe or a reset. And that's why we go to other people for advice, whether it's medical advice or brain health advice or, body advice or, but for me, I go looking of, I need a different perspective. I need something's not quite right. And I can't quite read it in my own body. And so that's why we go to somebody else. It's not, we go to somebody else to be told, it's to go to receive information so we can see exactly how it sits in our body and then be able to act differently. So
I love that. And I love when people think of sometimes therapy or medicine, like you have to tell me what to do and exactly what to do. And it's like, you're in control of your life. I can give you insight about X, Y, Z. But like you said last time, and this was just so beautiful, and I've thought about it a lot in the past week, is if it doesn't feel good, it's not good. And because of how important our gut health is, and I mean, there's so many, famous doctors and counselors and life coaches that talk about the gut-brain connection. 3/4 of our neurotransmitters are actually formulated in our gut.
yes.
So when people think about that, it kind of opens up the door to what are you eating? When you get a gut response about maybe I shouldn't turn down this road, or maybe I shouldn't talk to this person, just kind of going along with that and just saying, you know what, it doesn't feel good. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to do what feels good and what to me, because my gut and my brain are telling me what's going to be the best path for me, which might be the wrong path when it's really the right path. So
Right. Absolutely. And that's, when we get, everybody, experiences their intuition and their gut feelings and their instincts differently. For me, I get a little butterfly in my stomach of just like, whoa, I better pay attention here. There's something going on, but our bodies are taking in, like we talked last time, via our five senses. And so, there's information coming in, and if we would just slow down enough to listen to it. And I think that is one of the gifts of the pandemic. Really is, it has slowed everything down almost into like I feel like that Bugs Bunny commercial, the Bugs Bunny of just like, he's in slow motion and you're just like painfully like watching him going, oh my gosh, I wish he could run faster. But but that's what time has slowed down to. But that's the gift of it, is because then we can start paying attention to what's coming in. And that's one of the things that I was thinking about today in wanting to touch on was what's in our environment. What is it that we can control that feels good and that makes us feel good? And thinking about, so I worked out of my house long before the pandemic. So I've been working out of my house since 2015 for the past 5 years. And I saw clients, acupuncture clients, and I sold my practice 1.5 years ago. But I'm still working out of my house. And, I spend the most amount of time in my office. And the second room that I spend time in is actually on my porch, which is outside of my house. And then, the third would be sleeping wise, or, probably second would be sleeping. And so what I would like to offer to people is to think about what room in your house, because you're there right now a lot, where do you spend the most time, and what does it feel like? Like if you were to go and stand in the doorway and close your eyes before you step in to your room, your body already knows what's happening in that room. Like, what does it feel like? Is there clutter there that needs to be moved? Guess what? That's in your control. Like, you can get it out of there. Like, what color is it? Do you need to go to the store and, buy $5 worth of paint and paint one wall to make a difference? What color would feel stimulating if you're trying to be creative, if you're trying to be calm in your office and there's too much going on? What color would feel good? What smells would be good? Do you want like an aromatherapy? Do you want some lavender? Do you want something stimulating like peppermint or, rosemary or something like that that can waken up the senses? Do you, what sounds do you want to hear? Do you want water in the background? Do you want an ocean? Do you want silence? Do you want jazz? Do you want rap? Do you want and so thinking about as you stand in the doorway, go through all of your senses. What do you want to see, hear, taste, smell, touch? Like, what do you want to, how do you want that to feel before you enter? And then look in your environment and see what can be changed. It can be little things. It can take you 5 minutes. This is not like a 3-month ordeal that you have to do. Like,
Right.
it is so easy. I mean, sometimes I'll come in and I'll be like, whew, there's too much stuff behind me. I gotta like clear this stuff out, and I'll clear it out and I'll see like, in a couple of days, like, I'm like, oh, I'd like to put, a picture here, or, oh, I'd like to put this, And so what do you do for your environment? Like when you want to change it up?
So it's just so weird. We're like so in tune. I think it's the best because like we don't really talk about like, you come on 10:58 and then we just so last week was the second week that I moved my office, which is my little treadmill and then this desk that I just kind of put together from Goodwill. And I moved it to my front room, which I have a small brick house. And so it's kind of designed in a weird way where my front room is long and thin. So I basically just put a bunch of chairs and tried to make it feel like a front porch. It's my favorite room and I don't go in there very much. And so when I was in my other room, which is wood, which to me symbolizes like relaxation, I'm like, I need to do something more stimulating on my treadmill and looking outside. And I moved it. And so now I look out my front window so I can see people going by. I feel engaged. As I'm an extrovert, it's been obviously really hard, even though I get to talk to people like you all the time, pretty much that's what I'm doing online or on a video. I feel engaged, but to actually see people walking by and like them walking their dogs and having their own life experience, like it just makes me feel connected.
Yeah.
And this lighting doesn't express, but this room is like a French country blue. It's almost like a sky blue with like a touch of lilac. So peaceful and beautiful. And it's just been like kind of life-changing that I just made that simple change. Like you said, I was like, I'm going to move and see how I do. And like last week, I just felt so much better. I did some things that I've been kind of procrastinating as far as like my therapy work, and I did it. And like, it was hard for a day, but then I was like, I feel so much better, just very releasing. As always, whenever I meet anybody and see anybody after a significant amount of time, like I'm always anxious to see what they're wearing, because you're wearing green and flowers today, which is like beautiful and fun. And last week you were wearing orange because you're trying to get more into your creative self. And for my friends that know me a long time, I very rarely wear red. And like today I was just feeling like bold, and I'm like, I'm just going to wear red.
I love it.
That I had something to wear when I was watching Georgia games. And then I was like, that's dumb because I hate football. And like, I to support my friends that like Georgia football. But again, I don't have to deal with that right now.
Well, I love the red. It brings vibration, and I mean, it brings energy and fun, and
yes.
Well, and I think about that too, of like, when you stand in the doorway of the room that you're spending the most time in, or that you're spending the second most amount of time in your house, what do you want to feel when you go in there? So like, obviously when I go into my bedroom, I don't want to be stimulated. I don't want any screens. I don't want anything that's going to mess with my sleep. And, I want something that's calming. But for me, I love the color orange. And so like, that is my color. And so I have an orange bedspread that is, stimulating. But for me, I just love it so much. I just feel really good when I curl up in it. But for somebody else, that might be like, oh my God, that feels like I'm on fire. Get it off of me. Yeah. Right. And so we have to like tune in to what we are wanting and needing. And when our brains get stuck, like we were talking about in the beginning, you know, if our brains are getting stuck on negative thought patterns, we need something to shift it. And so it can be a simple thing, you know, as changing a plant, or, you know, bringing a different light into the room, or taking a walk, or, you know, eating something that is colorful and not, you know, white, bland food, but something that has minerals and vitamins, and that is, you know, from, like, you can feel that it's from the earth. Like when I eat something that's, you know, just kind of white and bland, it's just kind of like, I know it came from the earth, but it doesn't feel very vivacious. And so it doesn't make me feel as good when I eat it. And it's not as nutrient dense. So really paying attention to, you know, my my mantra of, you know, good feels good, bad feels bad.
Yeah, I kind of forgot, because sometimes I just forget things that I really want to do because they're so simple, I forget. And so I was going to the store to get some flowers for my friend's birthday, and I was like, I told myself months ago that I was going to have fresh flowers in my front room for the rest of the year. Totally forgot about it. Finally remembered last week, and it's just completely changed everything. And it's just this, I mean, I'll show you. It's like the tiniest little vase. It's not even, it's like the size, not even the size of my head, and just some fresh flowers. And it's just totally changed everything. And they cost me $4. I mean, you know what I mean? Just like the little things you can do that make such a big difference. And I got some fresh flowers, because the flowers I got in the spring and planted in my yard were looking a little rough. So I got some new ones, and it's just brought this whole different energy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's we're in process of getting our house ready to sell. And I was, because I spend so much time work-wise, I just don't get outside as much. And so we've been walking down this pathway to my front door, and it was like getting closer and closer. And like, it's good that I'm little, because it was like, you had to be little to like get through, because it was just growing so much. And I've never learned how to take care of the outside. Like I'm always afraid to like cut something that I shouldn't cut. And, you know, I need to like take some time to take lessons and figure out about landscaping and everything. But we just had somebody yesterday come, and a friend, and just, you know, like it felt so good to walk out the door and have space. Like I was like, oh, why do I wait so long? You know, like we know these things, but we get stuck sometimes.
Totally. And I had this other revelation. I've been procrastinating buying extra fans, so I don't have to bring the one that I have, like bringing it all over the house at different parts of the day. I bought this adorable fan from Walmart. It was like $25, and it's like loud, which I like, and it helps me concentrate. And so like, again, like this small purchase that I realized, like I liked having this, we had sound machines at the office, and I forgot how helpful that was.
Right.
And so I was like, I got a sound machine that has ocean waves and the fan, and I'm just like rocking and rolling with sound therapy. I'm like, loving it.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I would never, I mean, I used to have a sound machine outside my acupuncture rooms towards the end of my practice, because they weren't out 20 years ago. And I just thought of it for my clients, but I didn't really think about it for me. And so I'll think about that as far as putting that on. But it's like, what do we want to hear so that we can do whatever it is that we want to do? Like, what do you want to hear when you cook in the kitchen? You know, like cooking for me has always been a challenge. And it's not something that comes naturally to me. And so I have to put on good music in order to get myself going. And then I find that I enjoy it more, and I find that I pour more love into the food, which pours more love into me and those that I feed. And, you know, it's just that ripple effect. You know, when you feel better, everything gets better.
I know. I love that. I'm going on vacation next week, and back to work for a week, and then I go on vacation again. And I'm just so excited, because we're just going to cook and like, you know, spend time with my friends and family. And I love cooking for people, but yeah, like it's not fun just cooking for myself.
Mhm.
So a few months ago, I was like, what would make me cook? Because I'm sick of going out. Like, this is dumb, spending all this money. And so I started listening to either podcasts that are hosted by comedians or actually listen to stand-up comedy while I'm doing it. So I'm laughing, but also staying focused so that I'm not like burning stuff.
That's good.
And so I'm like, literally, I'm like, this is making my food better. And it's like a better experience for me because I'm able to laugh, enjoy it, and still focus. And then I do try, this is a good question for you, because it was just a client, but basically a guest when I was working in the restaurant industry. They said that your digestion is better during the day if you eat standing up. And so I tried sticking to that for years and then kind of got, in office life where I wasn't doing that. And so now I probably eat almost all of my meals standing up except for dinner. And I don't know if that makes a difference. Please let me know. But like, I feel better because I'm doing it mindfully because I can't be on the phone and typing standing.
Right.
Like, I don't even bring my laptop in the kitchen. Like, that's my time.
Yeah.
And not my food.
I would say like both, like in the bedroom and in the kitchen, not to have, screens going, because you don't want to get distracted. But that's a good question. And that's interesting. And so that this goes back to listening to what feels good to you.
Mm-hmm.
So what I learned in Chinese medicine is sitting is good. And after you eat, sitting to eat, but then after you eat is to walk at least 1,000 steps, but to walk thousands of steps after you eat to help with your digestion.
Cool.
So that's how, Chinese medicine has many different schools of thought, many different theories. And there's one school of thought that is just so fascinating because the whole brain gut thing is coming into, Western science now, coming in the forefront. But thousands of years ago in China, there was a school of thought that if the only thing that you do as a practitioner is to help somebody's digestion, everything else will fall into place.
What? Can you say that again? That's so powerful. Wow.
If the only thing that you do is to bring into balance somebody's digestive system, everything else will fall into place.
Wow.
So from a time, so of course, there's the brain gut connection that Western science is now like, oh yeah, there's a connection here. And we're like, yeah, there's a connection here. It takes a while sometimes, a couple thousand years for things to trend. But that's one of the wisdoms of Chinese medicine is they figured out so many things without, in Chinese medicine, they did not, it was against their religion at the time, their belief system, to open up the human body. That was considered sacrilegious, and the body was considered sacred and not to be cut open. And so they had to figure out a different way of how this body thing worked without cutting it open and seeing it. And so they figured out a lot of things that now Western science and other sciences throughout the world are starting to be like, oh yeah, that starts to make sense. And so what they did was they said, okay, so we don't know what's going on here, but we have an idea how nature works. We have an idea how the environment works. We have an idea how astrology works. We have an idea how, the environment, what we call feng shui around us works. And if all of these things are happening around us, then we as human beings must be a micro version of that. And so that's where they started to figure out what was going on with the body. In Western science, Western science looks at the body like it's very mechanically. And Chinese medicine looks at the body like it's a garden, like it's nature, and it's got wisdom, and it may not make sense at the millisecond, but if you follow it and if you support it, the wisdom of the body can take care of itself. that's, I mean, acupuncture and Chinese medicine is not about curing something. It's about bringing the body, mind, and spirit back into balance so that the body can heal itself, because the innate wisdom is there. So, what we have to do now, as what I think, Western science and other sciences are bringing in, is like, okay, we're realizing like, yeah, there's, we're poisoning our food. And so we've really got to take a look at that. And so we don't want to put that into our systems. And, we've got to pay attention now with all the new technology. And that's the gift, is to, merge all of these wisdoms together to live a balanced life. I mean, that's what it is.
That is so awesome.
Well,
I love hearing about it. Well, it's just making me laugh because I was thinking of like the first couple times I did acupuncture, and he that I worked, at Aim Clinic's brain health clinic. He understood the brain and body very well. He was actually an orthopedic surgeon. He did a 360 with his career. And I was shocked at how many needles he was putting in my head. I'm like, is my brain that? He's like, no, it's not bad at all. It's just, it's so stimulated that it's causing other parts of your body to kind of shut down. And so I was like, that makes sense. And it was really cool to think of it that way instead of just parts, looking at it as a system. And I just thought that was such a cool thing.
Yeah. And I always think of, that's a really great idea to bring up, is because our bodies are always resourcing. Nature is always resourcing, and so it's like, where is there imbalance or weakness or deficiency in our system? And that's where we need support, to bring it there. So if your brain's not working well, that's when you go to a brain health coach or to the Amen clinics, or, you find somebody that can help your brain work better. And maybe it's your brain, or maybe it's your gut that's off balance, that's not able to support your brain. So there's so many, one of the things that I would love to do with our weekly sessions is have people jump on our Facebook pages on, so my Facebook page is Brainwise Acupuncturist, and yours is under?
Just my name, Fallon Jordan.
Fallon Jordan. And so is to jump on those, and if there's questions that people have about their brain or their body or their spirit, health, that they want us to talk about, is to ask questions, and we'll do our best to address them.
Definitely. That's why we're here. I know we're doing a restreaming so that it doesn't really allow for messages to come through in real time. But I also know we kind of picked Tuesday mornings, just kind of knowing people would linger in throughout the week. I mean, I check my Facebook multiple times a day.
Yep.
Just let us know. Yes, we want to work on stress. There's, we can never run out of things to talk about related to just that. But if there's anything specific that you want to hear more about, I mean, that's what we're here for. So. Absolutely,
for sure.
Yay.
So I would really invite people to just take a look at like their most utilized room in their house, if that's where they're spending the most time. Even if you are able to get out to your office, pay attention to that, because you're there for a long time. But go in and just, like I said, stand in the doorway, close your eyes, and check in with all of your senses. See what feels good in each sense, and see if you're missing something. And just add, there's little things that you can do that can make a really big difference. And when in Feng Shui, one of the like easiest things to think about is every time you go by, like if you go by a closet in your house, and inside that closet there's a lot of stuff, and like almost like the door is holding that stuff in. Every time you go by that closet, your body contracts just a little bit. You may not even be aware of it, but your body contracts because it's like, oh God, I know it's in there. I don't want to deal with it. And you go on. But think of all the times you contract throughout the day where you're contracting blood flow to your brain, to your gut, to, you know, all parts of your body. And so we want to make it where we can feel like we breathe and have space. And so if it means that you need to open up the closet and you give yourself 15 minutes to just take out the first layer and then shut the closet and go on, you know, that can make a really big difference the next time you go by. It's such a simple thing, but it can make a really big difference. So
absolutely. And I love that because that's a really cool way to look at psychological health. One of the many things that my friends, their counselors, have shared with me, this one has always stuck with me when people are in that state of contemplation of going to therapy and doing deeper work. Mm-hmm. Say it's like a room that's cluttered that you've been avoiding for years, and we need to go in there together and get all the crap out, organizing in a way that when you walk by, it makes you relaxed and happy and not triggered.
Right.
What do you think? That sounds like a good thing to end on.
That's perfect. That's awesome. Yes.
Awesome. Well, always so good and amazing to see you. And I will see you next week.
All right. We'll see you
Thursday.
Yes.
Thursday.
And so next week, but you're on vacation?
Yes, but I was planning to do this.
We can do it? Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So next week at 11. And yes. Then what's Thursday?
2 p.m. Eastern. I will see you.
Okay. That sounds good. Thank you.